podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it has been a little bit of a hiatus. We have been building up our channel, building up our brand with a lot of solo videos, but we can't stray too far from our bread and butter. The OGs are back, and we are back with our Sports Wars podcast. I, of course, am Pat, a.k.a. Cool Connoisseur, a.k.a. the Mayor of Oakland, a.k.a. the no longer stressed out Golden State fan, and I'm being joined by my right-hand man, the bearded bulldog himself, Mr. Roy Morgan. How you feeling tonight, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm back for the podcast is back for OTAs, getting warmed up for the season, and then also in shape for the finals, man. We got the finals to talk about. Got a lot of good stuff going on, and this is that time of the year where things are going to start getting into the dead of the summer. So,
yeah, if the weather's getting hot, shorts are being pulled out, bright colored shoes are being worn by individuals such as myself. It's a fun time of the year, and to your point, it kicks off with the finals, and then now, obviously after the finals, you have all of the free agency off-season hoopla. And once that finally dies down, then we're going into preseason NFL. So, the wheels continuously move. There is no time to take a day off. But, obviously when you're a sports fanatic, when you love this stuff and you live for it, there really is no down period. That's a good thing.
Digging for news, looking for everything.
Right. Absolutely. So to go ahead and kick right off with these current NBA finals, obviously it's the Golden State Warriors versus the Toronto Raptors. After a very dominant performance in their debut finals game, the Raptors struggled down the stretch in Game 2 and lost to the Warriors, despite the Warriors being pretty banged up, like really all across the roster. In the third quarter, Toronto was outscored 22-6, and they struggled down the stretch in the fourth, had like a 5-minute period of getting one stop after another, but they just couldn't get a basket. Van Fleet, Siakam, Gasol, there's various supporting cast members. They were able to do what they could, but a lot of early and late foul trouble hindered their ability to kind of capture momentum and retake control of the game from the Warriors. And Golden State was lucky. I have no problem admitting that, to very fortunate to kind of pull that one out, tie the series up, headed back to Oakland for Game 3, I believe on Wednesday night. Your overall thoughts and early reaction to somewhat of a different matchup, obviously missing a certain someone for the first time in several years.
Man, I just so we know, just to let our watchers know, I'm on the opposite side in my hopes for this series. We all know Pat's the resident Golden State fan. I'm rooting for Toronto here, just somebody else, the underdog here. Going back to game, just starting with the beginning of the series, Game 1. Of course, I enjoyed Game 1. I did not enjoy Game 2. The first half of Game 2 kind of played out the same way that most of Game 1 played out, except that third quarter, which everybody talks about, that vaunted Golden State third quarter, and that's exactly what happened. Me and my wife I was watching the game with my wife, and Golden State came out doing what they do, and I was just like, turn it off. It's done. Wrap it up. And I knew then. I didn't expect them to. I was surprised when I woke up the next morning and saw that it was only a 5-point win. A couple balls, from what I understand, Kawhi almost came up with a steal there at the end, right before the Iguodala 3, that kind of that nail in the coffin 3.
Right.
Very well could have tied it. So, I mean, Kawhi, had a kind of a bounce back game, but Siakam and Gasol didn't. I said in my initial thoughts in the group that after Game 1 that Gasol is going to be the key. Whenever Golden State has trouble with a team, it's always because of the big man on the other team, especially over a 7-game series. When Cleveland did their thing, it was because of Love and don't get me wrong, LeBron still did his thing, but the contributions of Love and Tristan Thompson were even if it
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily points, it was the rebounds and being where they were on the court. And I mean, Love, it's funny because it's almost like Toronto they rewatched that series because you can see Gasol doing what Love did. And that's a lot of perimeter
Yeah,
defense for a
absolutely.
big man. I think Curry has trouble when he's got a guy that much bigger than him trying to guard him on the perimeter. And Gasol's a good enough defender that he can go inside or outside and guard whoever. And they, for some reason, they went away from they got away from that. Clay also was Clay was hot before he went down with that injury, and you can kind of tell. I think when he went down is when when Toronto started kind of marching back a little bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, I still think I don't think this is going to be a boat race like we all kind of initially thought. Like I was joking around with somebody at my job. They were like, "Oh, who do you think wins the series?" I was like, "Golden State in fucking 3." Like this is going to be bad. And then that first game kind of surprised me, man. I mean, I like Toronto. They were gutsy. Van Fleet and Siakam, they got a fan in me, man. I love that hardcore, that
Yeah.
just grimy.
Shit. Siakam in particular in game one, like
Siakam was a fucking beast.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the 3-point numbers were, and I've said this in the past. A lot of teams fuck up when they try to play Golden State's game. When you try to go 3 for 3 with Golden State, you're not going to win. It's not going to happen. And too many teams have defaulted to that, like Houston, like Cleveland last year, like Cleveland 2 of the last 3 years. When they default to that, let's just shoot threes with them, you're going to fucking lose. You're not going to outshoot them.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you get a team that, like with Curry, some of the shots he makes are fucking ridiculous. And when those are falling, fuck it, pack it in. And I mean, and that's what happened with Clay. Like when they opened that third quarter and they were down 5, and then I looked up and they're up 12. I'm like, yep, fucking done. It's done.
Yeah, I mean their game in game one, absolutely, and in stretches in the first half of game 2, it really looked like the last 5 years, just this team being just in the mix and going through the entirety of the season all the way through the finals. There were stretches where it looked like it was really starting to catch up to them just from a fatigue standpoint. And I still believe that it is. You know, the fact that the finals games are a little bit more spaced out, you know, in recent years than they were back during some of those 2-3-2 and then, you know, 2-2, 1-1-1 formats back in the day. Like, those extra days of rest are really going to count a lot on both sides because at this point, both these teams are full of veterans.
Yeah.
You know, as far as my giving out my game balls in terms of recognition of performance, obviously Siakam just tore it the fuck up in game 1. But if I got to give an MVP for game 2, I honestly would give it to Boogie. You know, his contribution of size, particularly in the absence of Durant, you know, someone to kind of get in there and match up with a Gasol, match up with an Ibaka, just make a lot of passes and plays and assists in the interior, in the paint. That was the difference maker to me. Because, you know, Toronto, just from a shooting standpoint, if they want to try to go toe-to-toe with us on threes, they're one of the few teams out there that can legitimately do it. But in the meantime, Golden State basically just got back into mid-range and interior. As far as game 3 goes, I'm not going to say I'm comfortable by any means just yet because Clay had his MRR today. I'm pretty sure it came back clean, but he's still not going to be quite 100%. And as far as Durant goes, right now, the hopes for him to come back would be maybe game 4, but it's still up in the air. It's still very much up in the air. So, you know, this series in many ways is starting to turn into what few thought it would be. Toronto's a well-built team. Obviously, they're pretty well coached, and experience matters. And they've got it. You know, it was interesting to see them go back and forth with Milwaukee in the prior round because in a lot of ways they're like the opposite. Like Milwaukee's full of all of this youth, whereas, you know, Toronto in some cases they're a little bit long in the tooth, but it becomes that balance of youth versus experience. Like situationally, this team and these guys know exactly what to do. It's just a matter of them going out and doing it.
I mean, a stat that I think that is a very big one and very important one that a lot of people aren't talking about, that we actually brought up in the group as well.
Right.
Toronto is the first team to make the finals without a player picked in the top 14. Now, that on face value, that just seems like a fun little stat. But what it tells me is that you've got a bunch of guys whose spots have not been guaranteed, who have to bust their ass every single game to hold their spot in this league. Now, I understand we're talking about Kawhi Leonard, who is a two-time NBA champ, or at least a one-time NBA champ.
Yeah, he's one-time NBA champ.
Marc Gasol is a defensive player of the year. Serge Ibaka, a lot of folks remember he went to the finals on that Oklahoma City team that had Harden and Durant and Westbrook. But these are all guys. I mean, Ibaka was damn near, they left for dead. I mean, he got traded to Orlando. Yeah. And Kyle Lowry, I mean, you're talking about a lot of guys who have been moved around a lot. Siakam, I admittedly, man, I don't watch a lot of Canadian basketball. I hadn't heard of this kid before game one of the finals, and I'm a fucking fan. And every one of these dudes, and that don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the team of Golden State has had shit given to him, because Curry's had to bust his ass. Curry went to Davidson. He didn't go to some big college. Draymond is a second-round pick. Clay has just been the baseball player's son. Probably the most highly touted out of the group that played in Game 2 was DeMarcus Cousins. Even he's had his detractors.
Yeah.
I mean, another fun stat with that: DeMarcus Cousins is the first John Calipari Kentucky Wildcat to even play in the finals. So I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that speaks as far as Toronto not having any guys in the top 14. That speaks on the scrappiness and the kind of willingness to do the job. I mean, you get number one pick. They're like, I'm not diving for balls, bro. Like, I'm not. That's not my shit. I'll score 30 points a game. I'm not going to D up on the 3-point line against the fucking center. Guy, I mean, this team is full of dudes who do that shit, who do the dirty work. And that's why I don't think this is going to be a runaway series. If I could absolutely see Golden State winning it, but I mean, 6 is probably the lowest I would go. I would love a 7-game series. Dude, I can't even imagine a Game 7 in Toronto. Game 1 was fucking nuts.
Yeah, it would probably be the biggest bit of adversity we've faced thus far. I mean, the slow death of 3-1, those games in Cleveland, that was pretty bad. But, you know, like I mentioned before, I mean, the energy in that building, because it's their first time being there, like that's tremendous no matter what the situation is, what the team is. I mean, look at last year's Super Bowl. In the middle of Minnesota, the crowd is like 85% Eagles fans.
Yeah.
Like, they, even before the game, they knew that was going to be their moment. Like, it was just in the cards, so to speak. So if it turns out that way for Toronto, it's going to be some tough fucking sledding. So, you know,
I'll tell you something.
We better not get comfortable. I'll say that.
I'll tell you something that came to my mind. Watching that first Game 1 and the Game 2, the first half of Game 2, of the series so far, what it reminded me of, and it reminded me of another finals that I watched, and it was the 2004 NBA Finals. It was the All-Star LA Lakers. People made a big fuss. It was Gary Payton, Karl Malone.
Oh yeah,
along with Shaq and Kobe and their regular that group, that all-star group, against the scrappy kind of role playing Detroit Pistons led by
Yeah.
Chauncey Billups and Ben Wallace and
Just
a
the
bunch of blue collar guys.
Yeah, one of the most just, hard hat lunch pail teams
Yes.
probably ever.
And that's what the first game one going into the first half of game two, that this series has really reminded me of that, just because of exactly that. Detroit and Toronto were kind of the scrappy, like I said, lunch pail, go to work, play defense, the NBA put in rules specifically to stop teams from playing defense, or because Detroit kept holding. Don't nobody want to watch 72-70, and that's what Detroit was doing.
Yeah,
and I mean
just grinding you down, pressing you,
and that
physically.
series ended up being 4-1, and because I remember everybody joking around about it, that it was they call it a 5-game sweep, and not to put any omens on anything, but Detroit won game one, Lakers won game two, and then the Pistons ran the table.
Yeah.
So far, this is what it's reminded me of. And the game, ironically enough, the game one with Pistons and Lakers, it was the Pistons kind of ran away with it. Everybody was like, oh, they just surprised them and jumped on them. And then the Lakers immediately reacted. And then game three was a fucking blowout. Game three, the Pistons beat the Lakers by 20 points, and the Lakers scored 68.
Yeah, man. Golden State better not have their heads up their asses after game two.
So, I mean, and you got, I mean, the difference was this Pistons team didn't have a Kawhi who had already had his championship. They had Ben Wallace, who was essentially people at W. He's just a role player.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they had Rip Hamilton, and Chauncey was a cast off. Chauncey his name wasn't well known until after. I mean, so
yeah,
that's what this series has reminded me of, is that 04 finals.
Right. And man, it's crazy to think how much time has passed already since then. That was one of the last NBA finals that Al Michaels ever called.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
Dude, 15 years ago. You know how fucking crazy it is?
Wild. Keeping things within the NBA before we move on to that other sport that we tend to talk about on occasion. Two stories I want to get your thoughts on. Obviously, to try to go over everything that has taken place in Lakerland, one would be we'd be here all night. Two, we've covered it pretty extensively for our solo videos on the channel recently. But in any case, Rob Pelinka, Kobe's guy, it's this story has come out of him talking about some of the various elements of Kobe's time throughout his tenure as a player in LA. And he throws out this story about how Kobe saw The Dark Knight, and he saw the performance of the late Heath Ledger as the Joker, and was so inspired by it that he apparently had lunch with Ledger to find out how he locked in for the role. The only problem with the timeline of this story is that, as we all know, Ledger tragically passed away about 6 months prior to the film's release. So on top of all of the back and forth with Magic's departure, with LeBron basically trying to keep his head above water and just get through all of this transitional shit, the hiring of Vogel, this is a really weird thing to throw into the mixture of shit going on in LA. And then on a somewhat more normal note, but still one of those oh shit kind of moments that you have throughout the day when you look at your Bleacher Report and your ESPN app, Daryl Morey is fed up. The general manager of the Houston Rockets, they have constructed this team and have been obsessed for 3 years now with taking down the Warriors. One comparison I've made in recent weeks is I feel like the Houston Rockets are the Kansas City Chiefs of the NBA. But at this point, I don't even know if I can say that, because despite not being able to get past the Patriots, the Chiefs have a lot of stability. You can see a clear and concise direction. Houston, they're blowing this thing up. Like they're done. They're not accepting this standard. Where's your head at in regards to those two stories?
I'll start with Houston just because I got a lot to go on with the Rob Pelinka bullshit. I think that it's more, although Maury has proven that he absolutely has no trouble moving players. He doesn't give a fuck. There is no absolutely no remorse, no hesitation. He will move players. I think this is more about sending a message that y'all better get y'all shit together or there's going to be changes made. I think he would like to be without Chris Paul. As we know, Chris Paul took his first kind of giant step back in kind of skill this year. He also was injured for a good little bit. He is set at 36 years old to make $44 million the last year of his contract. I stand by it. Any team trades for him. Any team that trades for him and pays that contract deserves to lose. Doesn't matter who. Lakers, Knicks, Hornets. If you want to bring him back to fucking what were they? Did he play in Charlotte or did he go straight to New Orleans?
It was all New Orleans because they hadn't yet to make their transition back.
Whoever fucking makes that trade for Chris Paul, you're paying $44 million to a guy who's going to be the third option at best on your team. That makes the Mike Conley deal look amazing. I don't think they trade Harden by any means. They have kind of painted themselves in a corner with the Eric Gordon deal, Clint Capella, and Chris Paul. Not to mention Harden. Well, there's no fucking way they trade Harden. I don't think that happens under any circumstance. Harden is who this whole team was built around. Trading Chris Paul is so far beyond even being feasible. No one is going to take that deal. He has 3 years left on it, so you're not getting any kind of cap relief. You're trading for a guy who's in his mid-30s who's still set to make over $120 million. There's only a handful of guys that I would give that kind of money to that are in their physical prime, not on decline, like Chris Paul clearly is. Me and Zach, we're talking. Shout out to Zach. Me and Zach were talking about Kemba Walker.
Oh yeah.
Zach is a firm believer that he wouldn't even give Kemba Walker that deal. Me, if you're Charlotte, I think you got to. But paying a 20-year-old, I don't know exactly, late 20s, paying a late 20-year-old is significantly different than paying a guy who's 34. It'll be 34, 35, 36. 36 when his contract runs out. Yeah, that's a no-go for me. My favorite, now switching over to Rob Pelinka and the Lakers, my favorite deal, my favorite thing about this is that Rob didn't stay like vague to like, he got super specific with the story that not only did like the Dark Knight inspire him and he wanted, and Kobe wanted to pick his brain and talk to him. Pelinka got specific in that he was like, oh, they were in New York and he was so moved by the conversation that he had a big game against the Knicks. All right, a little history lesson here. The Dark Knight came out in July of 2008, July 18th, 2008. That was when the movie came out. So the Lakers did not play the Knicks until December 16th, 2008. Now, that one was in LA. That wasn't in New York. Now, if we're looking for when they played in New York, let's go a little further for that. They didn't play in New York until February 2nd of 2009. And in that first game against the Lakers, Kobe only scored 28 points. So I doubt that's the big game he was speaking of. So then that brings us to the other game, the one in LA, which let me see if I can find it. Oh, no. So that big game in New York is damn. Kobe scored 61. So that's the game he's referring to. In February 2nd, 2009. So 6 months after the movie came out is when he had the big game in New York. Heath Ledger had been dead over a year by the time that happened. So there's no way that Kobe had dinner with Heath Ledger after a showing of The Dark Knight. It's just when liars start getting super specific with their lies, it becomes so easy to debunk that it's almost like, dude, were you even fucking trying?
Like you're to bend the truth, particularly in situations like this, where, as you have demonstrated for our spectacular audience here, you can reference certain things, certain events to get a timeline, and then take that timeline and square it up with what the person is saying. And you and I are not defense attorneys here. Like 5 seconds of Googling.
Case closed. Right? I didn't throw rocks at that shit. I took a bazooka to it. It blew up the whole fucking argument. I mean, it's
and so then it becomes this situation where, obviously something pertaining to someone who's no longer with us, you're not going to be as crass and as sarcastic as you would in other situations. But at the same time, it's like, okay, are you just trying to take us for a ride, or are you that oblivious with regard to when things happen? Like, how you call yourself being in this position with one of the most prestigious organizations, not just in American sports, in sports on a global scale, yet you fuck up the timeline of when your guy supposedly had a meeting with another mega talent in a different industry before that person passed.
And I know what our listeners are going to say. They're going to say, why is this important? What's the big fucking deal? He lied about a date. The thing is, Rob Pelinka's his kind of legacy, his reputation at this point is he's a fucking liar. And that's why free agents are avoiding the Lakers. They don't want to deal with a GM who's going to like, hey, you lied about something that could easily be proven was a fucking lie. So what are you going to do when shit that's not as easily proven to be a fucking lie, when you're going to lie to me to bring me into the Lakers? And it's his whole reputation. And that's the thing, is he'd have been smarter, just leave certain details. Oh, Kobe watched The Dark Knight. He was fucking inspired. He watched it in New York. And then that night he had a huge game. Why throw in the whole, he had dinner with Heath Ledger and they talked about his motivations for the character? Because anybody that even was alive could say, dude, Heath Ledger was dead before the movie came out. There's no way he got Kobe's he's a legend. He's a superstar. There's no fucking way he got a screening 6 months in advance of The Dark Knight. The movies aren't done 6 months before release.
No.
And even if he got like, oh, I got to see it without all the fucking score and the lighting was shit and all the Foley recordings weren't done and all this other bullshit, there's no fucking way Kobe saw it 6 months before. Like, hey, let's knock this movie out before you die. And yeah, dude, just if he's lying about shit that is so easily proven to be bullshit, what else is he lying about? And so that makes me the whole interview with Magic where he came out and put all the dirty laundry out there.
Mm-hmm.
that makes, to me, they could both be full of shit, but Magic is more credible to me at this point.
Oh,
Just because,
by far. And it's, your points are all very well established, but for me, it's just they really got to just shit can this whole last year and just refocus and move forward. Obviously, whatever takes place in free agency is going to be the catalyst for that. You have Kobe Bryant, who is actively looking to recruit Kyrie. It's not LeBron doing it; it's Kobe, who's like his mentor in various capacities. And it's a situation where everybody who's a part of the Lakers family, ephemera, whatever, they all have to overcome the sludge and the mud of this last season. Like you guys know, I was down in LA a couple weeks ago to check out Avengers Endgame, just do some other stuff down there. And the theater that we went to is the one that's directly across from LA Live, which is near Staples Center. And that was the night of Game 6 of the Clippers and the Warriors. The energy around for the Clippers was through the roof. How and when does that happen?
And this shit that's crazy to me is, as bad as the Lakers season was, it is nothing compared to this shit train wreck of an offseason.
No.
They had something has to be done. They have to land somebody. There are no consolation prizes. You have to get Anthony Davis. You have to get Jimmy Butler. Not Jimmy or Kyrie. Not one or the other. You have to get Anthony Davis and one of the others. Or it's a fucking failure. This offseason, if they find a way to get those guys, this shit, people forget this shit. People forget Rob Pelinka is full of shit. And people forget the Magic Johnson press conference. I'm done, bitches, and then leaving. They'll forget that shit. They'll forget it if Anthony Davis is in a Laker jersey next year. They'll forget it if Kyrie is in a Laker jersey or Jimmy as a consolation prize is in a Laker jersey. They'll forget it. If they get neither one of these dudes, I want to say I was talking to a guy that I work with. I was talking to Zach too. If they don't get either one of these guys, the Lakers are going to do something stupid and desperate. And that means they're going to trade for Chris Paul. And that is, if they don't get either of their guys, I can guarantee that's what they're going to do. And they're going to trade somebody young and stupid. And it's going to be, they're going to end up trading probably Brandon Ingram or Kuzma or Lonzo. One of them is going to, probably two of them is going to end up in New Orleans. New Orleans is going to pair those guys with Zion, and they're going to be a playoff team. And the Lakers will be shit out of luck again, and LeBron will be like, fuck this, I want out. And then the LeBron haters will chime in and
the whole usual song and dance because it's LeBron's fault. The price of tea in China. Yeah, man. I mean, my reaction to the whole Pelinka thing really was just complete bewilderment before I moved on because if I marinated on it too much, I would have been like, what the fuck?
I don't understand doing anything so easily disprovable.
And as far as Daryl Morey in Houston, any GM who is worth their weight in salt, who actively takes on that Chris Paul contract, even LA in that desperate scenario that you just mentioned, forget his physicality declining. Forget the ridiculous contract. And to an extent, I get it. He's the president of the Players Association for now. He had to set a certain example, a certain precedent. But Chris Paul and all of his old school, tell it like it is, histrionics that are becoming increasingly archaic and ineffective amongst younger players, whoever remains from that trade of those three core young assets, you really think they're going to be in the mix with LeBron, who is legitimately like a mentor figure, and then you have this 5'11.5" wannabe running back in their ear yapping and barking and talking about this and that.
the original,
like, dude.
Chris Paul is the original groin reaper. Okay.
It's like, dude, I'm familiar with Blake Griffin. I'm familiar with DeAndre Jordan. Both of those guys, in comparison, more obscure teams and situations, are happier without you. So,
I mean,
a few teams better figure their shit out, man.
Blake has fucking thrived in Detroit, dude. I mean,
yeah. Oof. One of a few fucking things thriving in Detroit. Oh man. Well, it's time for us to get into some not way too early, just somewhat too early football talk, because we're in June now,
too early.
and preseason is in August. Damn it, like it's creeping up.
Yep.
You know, we've had a few months to digest that trash bowl in Atlanta, and you know we're coming close to that reset button. I've been texting LaRock some early stuff with regard to fantasy. You know, I'm trying to figure out whether or not I'm going to move my personal leagues to Yahoo completely, even though I'm still partial ESPN. It's an exciting time of the year when you're looking forward to football. So in any case, we're going to have our little segment, which is pretty simple: buy or sell. We're going to cover both the AFC and the NFC, and it's basically going to go player, team, coach that myself and Roy are buying into or that we are selling. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start in the AFC. I'm going to basically go for my list. Roy can kind of give me his reactions as we go, and then we're going to turn over to him. So for the American Football Conference, i.e. the Patriots and every fucking body else, buy player, the Super Bowl MVP himself, Nick Foles. I know it's crazy. I like the presence and the demeanor and the mindset of a Nick Foles within the mix in Jacksonville. I mean, obviously that defense, despite their struggles last year, but I mean, when you can't score points and you're on the field constantly, I don't care how talented you are, shit isn't going to go cool. I think Nick Foles is a stabilizing, calming agent within the mix in Jacksonville. And when you have a foundation of a Foles at quarterback, you know, the head coach, the organization, all of the various parts, I think he creates a foundation of legitimacy for them, because Blake Bortles wasn't it. I mean, I'm sure Blake Bortles is a solid dude as a person, but as a player, once he got past those 20 plays he had down, shit completely fell apart.
He never took that next step.
Definitely did not. Now for both team and coach, I'm kind of, it's pretty much all interrelated. I am all in 100%, all my chips pushed forward, face first into the Indianapolis Colts under coach Frank Reich. The Carson Wentz offense that, ironically enough, turned into the Nick Foles offense that won a Super Bowl and beat Tom Brady, he was the catalyst for it. Now, yes, Doug Peterson, very aggressive, but Frank Reich's system put him in the position to be as daring and forthwith and to really just put a pistol to your temple the way that he did. Now, over on the other side, selling, taking my investments and my interests and just, you know what, you can have it. And this is probably going to come as no surprise to most of you who tend to follow us here. Player, this one's a tie. Two funny hair having ass motherfuckers, one old and one young. I've tried like hell, but I'm sorry, I'm done. Odell and AB. Bye. We're done. That's it. Odell, the trade took place over 75 days ago. He has been in North Ohio a total of 3 days. The rookie head coach is going public with how perturbed he is. That's not a good indicator. And as far as AB goes, he's finally calmed down on all of his bitter ex-girlfriend shit talking. Like, dude, Jesus Christ, man, we get it. You don't like Ben. You didn't like the situation. But you got a new guy to work with. Go work with him. For me, AB is really more just about age and about the fact that all my feelings as an ex-fan aside, I like Derek Carr as a guy, but as a QB, I think he's a shot fighter post-injury. And it's unfortunate because up until that leg break in 2016, like he was having an MVP year. Did the Raiders catch some breaks that season? Yes, they did. But show me Super Bowl contending teams that don't catch a break here and there. And I'll show you a fucking pink unicorn that flies. With that being understood, team selling, it's pretty fucking obvious. I'm selling the Raiders. I literally divorced them as my team. Who else was going to fit into this slot in the AFC for me to sell? Come on now. And coach, this is the one I'm going to get letters on. Bill O'Brien. I understand the QB talent was not stellar for quite a while. And then when you did get a kid, he got hurt. But then you had a full season. Everyone was healthy for the most part. Defense has guys all over the place. Merciless, Watt, Clowney, Tyrann Mathieu in the backfield. Like, everyone stayed upright. You get to the playoffs after you squander what could have been a second seed, and you just get your shit kicked in by a divisional opponent that you should know like the back of your hand. There's no excuse for that in my mind. I as much as I want to like what Houston does and the direction they're going in, I don't think Bill O'Brien's vision is what's going to get them over the hump. I can't. So, that's where I'm at as far as AFC. Now, in terms of the NFC, i.e., the much more interesting and dynamic and competitive conference that ultimately just has to face Brady or Manning or Roethlisberger. By player. For all our longtime listeners and OGs from the group, this is not me pandering to Roy, but God damn it, I'm buying Matty Ice. The Falcons draft was big and mean and ugly. They went out and got some big, mean, nasty dudes to keep Matt Ryan upright. And the last 2 years, kind of as time has passed since that incident in February a few years ago, I think Matt Ryan is really ready to just push people's teeth back into the back of their heads and be like, all right, you know what, fuckers? You think we can't move past that shit from a few years ago? Watch this. Watch what we do in this division and in this conference. I'm in on Matt Ice. Team. And this is going to prove to you fuckers that I'm not pandering to Roy or John for that matter. Again, draft, quarterback, not so much coach, but I'm in between. I am all in, chips push forward, face first into the Seattle Seahawks. Yes. The Seattle apologist is apologizing for Seattle. No, but seriously, they parlayed their 2 or 3 draft picks into a shit ton more. They addressed pass rush, receiver, secondary, because, at some point you are going to have to move on from Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor and their legacy. Got to get some young boys back there, train them up, get them to a point where they're competing. They didn't really go super heavy into O-line, but I want to say they got like a guard or a tackle. I forget which. But in any case, they had a really stellar draft. Not necessarily superstars, but a lot of, C plus B minus type guys who can be highly functional quickly. And coach, this is really going to set some of you off. If anyone can draw talent out of Jameis Winston, damn it, it's Bruce Arians.
I don't disagree. I don't.
Yeah.
Not about Bruce Arians, at least.
Now, moving on to the sell part. This one's out of left field, I must admit. Sell player. Sorry, I don't buy Clay Matthews with the Los Angeles Rams. I don't. Wade Phillips is a wizard, magician, master, but Clay Matthews, like he's like a Buick with 100K miles on it.
I want to throw out to you what I look at that deal as.
Okay.
All right. Remember when Wade was the defensive coordinator in Denver?
Right.
And they got this cast-off linebacker that everybody thought he's too old, he ain't going to be able to compete, from Dallas, DeMarcus Ware.
Right.
Who Wade coached in Dallas. Do I think Clay's going to have that same kind of success? Probably not. But it feels the same, that he's just like, he's not playing every game that I can expect him to move mountains. It's just, hey, third down, go get the fucking quarterback. Passing situations, go get it. That's. I mean, I don't think it's going to win him a Super Bowl, but I don't think it's going to lose him any games either.
Yeah, and it's not just to completely poo-poo a move, but with that kind of mileage, and now you're in a division where, Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, they're not just fast, they're also smaller guys with a smaller center of gravity. So getting them down, if you can catch them, is hard enough as it is. At his age, even with a reduced snap count, I have my doubts. I got to be honest. Team, this is not me pandering to Aaron. I am out on the Minnesota Vikings. Done. No more. I feel like they officially missed their window, and it is unfortunate because they couldn't quite get the quarterback situation just right. That defense has aged out of a really, really prime spot. And, well, at the end of the day, at the foundation, you paid $84 million to cornflakes. So
not even frosted flakes, motherfuckers. This is straight cornflakes. Like,
you're lucky I didn't say Raisin Bran.
Oh my God. Adding sugar and bananas to this shit still won't help.
Like, it's just my mind always goes back to that game towards the end of the season. Like, motherfucker, who are you to try to tell Adam Thielen how to run a route? Like, fucker, give me a better ball. Don't worry about what I do. Put the ball in this spot. And as far as coach goes, this is probably going to catch people off guard. Jay Gruden has the nerve to open his mouth about how his brother's team should be on Hard Knocks because that'd be entertaining. Dude, what the fuck have you done with the Washington Redskins? Aside from mull over controversies, aside from have the least interesting team in that division and maybe the conference as a whole, despite being pretty solid last year before Alex Smith got hurt. I mean, the prospect of Haskins and his start isn't even enough to make me want to watch your football operation. And that's saying a lot because I'm hard-pressed to go out throughout the league and not find at least something interesting. And Aaron is going to give me shit about the whole Monday Night Football thing. That's not the point, fucker. Going throughout the whole course of the league, there's a lot of interesting shit going on, even with the quote-unquote bad teams. But the Redskins, it does nothing for me. And when you're at the helm as the head coach, I got to hold you accountable. Sorry. So that's where I'm at with my buying and selling. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Well, I guess I'll start the AFC as well. I'm actually going to go polar opposite of Pat with the first one. I'm buying Cleveland. I'm still in. We knew that Odell wasn't going to be without incident. Should he absolutely be in training camp learning with the young quarterback and the new offense? Sure. I think even if you take Odell off of this team, they're still a playoff team. If they decide before training camp, you know what, we're fucking done, let's trade him again, I still think they're a playoff team. A lot of the headlines of this offseason have been Odell and the reunion with Landry and Baker doing his thing, and Baker now clowning Colin Cowherd every time he gets a chance, which I'm all in for. I'm all in.
Yeah.
They haven't talked about Chubb's another year older. Just set a bunch of records as a rookie for the Browns. Kareem Hunt is on the roster. Nobody's talking about what that defense did. Yes, they lost Jabril Peppers, but they got Vernon. They still have Myles Garrett. They also signed Everson Griffin or some from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Or Sheldon Richardson. Well, somebody from Minnesota. I think even without Odell, this is a playoff team. I'm still buying. And people are going to forget all this shit if they get into training camp and they get into preseason games and Baker and Odell are locked in and working. Kitchens, I think, is saying what the media kind of wants him to say, like, oh, where's Odell? Oh, he's not here. And, doesn't that make you mad? And he's just, yeah, it's mad. And Kitchens isn't going to have to say shit. Landry is going to be on Odell's ass. Nobody is going to push Odell like Landry, period. But I get it. You need to show up. If you're not, even if you're not out there, shorts, watching tape, do your thing. That's the team I'm buying. I'm going to keep it in Cleveland. The coach I'm buying is still Kitchens. I like the chemistry him and Baker had the last half of the season. It's a lot of pressure, but Cleveland's one of those towns where I think the reward is a lot bigger than the risk. Because if you look at the last coach that had any kind of success in Cleveland? Is it fucking?
You got to go back pretty far.
Is it fucking Belichick? So
I mean, in terms of significant success, you might as well put Bill in there.
If they miss the playoffs, but it's still a 9-7 year, that's success in Cleveland. That's the most success they've had in 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
I still think they make the playoffs. They win that division. Freddie Kitchens. Is this Freddie? Kitchens is a fucking god in Cleveland. Also buying. I'm also with. I do like Frank Reich. I'm gonna co-sign that with you. I think Indy is going to take a big step next year. I would have liked them to be more active in free agency than what they were. They had the money to make some very big deals. I like that they kind of shied away from the Le'Veon Bell negotiations. A lot of teams, including myself, a lot of people wanted to see them make a splash and make a big deal like that. Mm-hmm. But it kind of shows that the restraint to not go out and spend big money on something that – I mean, they've got Marlon Mack. He's not terrible, but –
He's very functional within what they do.
Yes. And you can pay him what you pay him, which I think he's still on a rookie deal. You can pay him that and still get – even if you're getting 50 to 75% of the production that Bell's getting, Bell's making like 1,000% more money. So I am with Indy buying that. Selling, I am selling Houston and Pittsburgh. This is going to be a two-piece. I'm selling Houston and Pittsburgh for the same reasons you mentioned Bill O'Brien. I've got to think that if some kind of progress, if a playoff game with a healthy quarterback on the other team isn't won this year, then he's got to be out. I looked up his record while you were talking about him. The first 4 years, 3 or 4 years, he went 9-7. Then he went 4-12. And everybody gave him a pass because Deshaun Watson went down. And then this year he goes 11-5, and they fuck up. This has got to be the year that he wins a playoff game, at least one, or he's like Marty Schottenheimer light. even Marty Schottenheimer was winning 12, 13 games in the regular season. He just lose that first playoff game. Whereas Bill O'Brien's barely going over 500. Pittsburgh, I know. I think me and you've had discussions about it. I know everybody's looking like, oh, Pittsburgh. They lost. They got rid of some distractions. They also got rid of a shit ton of talent. AB, for all the pain in the ass he was arguably top 5 wide receiver in the league. Bell, arguably. I mean, they didn't miss him last year per se, but Connor
ain't Bell.
Connor ain't Bell. And now Connor doesn't really have to look over his shoulder. He's like, okay, I'm the guy now. We'll see. We'll fucking see. I know I've mentioned to you, Juju, as much as I love Juju Smith-Schuster. The kid is awesome. I love him, but he's going to get a hard dose of reality when he's getting covered by the Jalen Ramseys and the what's the kid, Denzel Ward in Cleveland. He's going to get a fucking hard dose of Stephen Gilmore and what are the Tre'Davious White in Buffalo. He's going to get a fucking hard dose of number one cornerbacks, and we're going to see what he is. And as always, I may start ending the podcast with this: fuck Big Ben, fuck Ben Roethlisberger. Selling a player. This isn't a hard sell. I think it's more of a light sell, just because sophomore slumps, man. I'm selling Patrick Mahomes.
Whoa. Wow. Okay.
And now that's not to say I don't think he has a great year or a good year. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be MVP. I think he's going to come back to the pack a little bit, specifically if depending on how this Tyreek Hill shit plays out. I know they were looking at my guy from Georgia, hoping that he could possibly fill that role, but we'll see. I think Mahomes kind of comes back to the pack a little bit. Not necessarily MVP numbers, and maybe Madden curse, man. I'm still a unbeliever. Coaches, Adam Gase. I know it's his first year for the Jets. The fact that you start your fucking tenure with a team by getting the GM fired and then also making it publicly known that the biggest free agency signing the Jets have had since Bart Scott, maybe. The biggest free agent signing that the Jets have had in 10 years is one that you absolutely were against and wanted no part of. And the rumors are coming out that you still may look to trade him. So that's
man, you know, but and see the Jets, the thing about them is that the Jets low-key have had a pretty solid defense for a while now. You go out and you sign Jamal Adams, who's after 2 years is easily a top 5 young safety in the league. You know, Adams and Darnold as, you know, young prospective talents are looking at this shit like, fuck, man. We were just starting to get it together.
What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, man. So, yeah, I can't behoove you for that really at all.
Yeah, I mean, Gates,
especially post Le'Veon.
Gase is starting this not with a good look. Let's see. Now moving to the NFC, buying, and I'm not pandering at all to Aaron. I'm buying the Bears. There's been a lot of positive talk coming out of Bears training camp. They've apparently Chuck Pagano, the new defensive coordinator, taking over for Fangio.
Yeah, he's in Denver now.
He's head coach in Denver now. Pagano taking over as defensive coordinator there in Chicago is absolutely infatuated with Roquan Smith. He fucking loves him. Which call me, dude. I could have told you that shit.
Yeah.
Roquan is a fucking beast. I think him and Mac complement each other perftly. Mac will go get the fucking quarterback. Roquan he's gonna capitalize on the mistakes that Khalil Mack is gonna force. Khalil Mack is gonna force the guy to throw one with a little extra air under it, or to dump it down to the running back, and Roquan's going to be there to tackle the running back for a 3-yard loss or intercept that ball that gets floated. I'm even specifically, I won't even say I'm buying the Bears as a whole. I'm buying that fucking Bears defense. I do like the Bears offense, but that defense is, I almost wish it was my fucking defense.
I mean, it's, obviously Roquan is a monster, Khalil Mack, but you also have a Nakeem Hicks wreaking havoc. You have the middle of the field completely secured by Eddie Jackson.
Yeah.
Who, Eddie Jackson, in terms of versatility, he's almost up there with Derwin James as far as being able to do everything you need your safety to do.
And Mack is the perfect complement to both of them because, like I said, Mack is going to force the quarterback to make mistakes. When you got Roquan on that second level, ready to take all those mistakes on, and you got Jackson deep. If a quarterback just says "fuck it" and throws it up there, just to get it out there, Jackson is back there, man, and it's that Bears defense is fucking scary. I love it.
Nasty, man.
I need to check the schedule, but I'm hoping the fucking Bears don't play the Falcons this year.
They play that team going to Vegas. I know that much. Hey, that's y'all problem
now. Let's see. I am as a player. I think I'm actually gonna go with a little hometown feel. I'm buying Devontae Freeman.
Okay.
Devontae Freeman missed. I think last year he missed like 15 games. I think he was in for only, let's see if I want to look it up here. He played 2 games. He had 68 yards rushing total. And 20 of those came on 1 rush. So he had 14 attempts all year. Tevin Coleman took over as the primary running back and only managed 800 yards. 2 years ago, Devontae Freeman was a top 5 running back in this league. He is a bowling ball of a man. He catches out of the backfield. He's a good, solid receiver. He can get the tough yards because he rushed for 1,000 yards in 2 of the I'll say in 2015, 2016, and he catches. Let's see, he had 73 receptions in 2015. So he's a beast out of the backfield catching. The last 2 years, he hasn't been healthy. He played 14 in 2017, but his touches were down significantly. He was hurt. He had nagging injuries all year. I think he is going to come back this year with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. Because every time I hear a conversation about top 5, top 6 running backs, Freeman isn't mentioned. And like I said, I remember that Super Bowl year, he was as big of a part of that team doing what it did as Julio and as Matt Ryan. I think he's coming for a bounce back year. Okay. Buying, this is going to hurt to even think or say, I'm buying Bruce Arians. I like him. I've always liked him as a coach. When he took over for the Colts and did his thing when Pagano was out dealing with his medical issues. And then when he went to Arizona and got him to a Super Bowl or made him deep in the playoffs.
In a NFC Championship. Because that was the year that they ran into Carolina and
yeah. But Bruce Arians, to me, that shows what a good coach can do. Because Arizona had long been just a fucking laughingstock of a franchise. Yeah. They were Detroit West. Like, they fucking sucked. The owners were terrible. Coaching was terrible. This is where players went to die. I used to like watching Jake Plummer. Jake Plummer leaves Arizona and goes to Denver, and all of a sudden he's all pro. So, like, Bruce Arians got them within 1 game of the Super Bowl. I know I shouldn't be rooting for Bruce Arians because he's obviously a division rival. But, I think with the talent that Winston has, if anybody is going to turn him around, it's going to be Arians. This is it. This is it for Winston. Either he's their quarterback for the next 5 years, or This is it. This is the last game in or last season in Tampa. Now to sell.
This is going to be juicy.
Yes, I am. For a different reason. I'm gonna start with a player here. I'm selling Dak Prescott. And not because I think he's terrible, not because I think he's bad. I think it's to me, it's because he's not worth $30 million. He is in contract negotiations currently with the Dallas Cowboys organization, and the rumored price tag for him is upwards of $30 million. Dak is not quite. All right, we've done this analogy before. We've called Kirk Cousins.
Diet water.
He's diet water. He's corn. He's cornflakes. He's enough to get you to the game. Enough to get you. You're okay. You're okay. Dak Prescott is. He is a Pop-Tart with no frosting. He's good enough, but you want a little more. And you can add a little bit to him. You can toast it a little bit, but you want that frosting.
Right.
And to me, he is – I watch his game, and you're just like, I just want a little bit more. Just give me a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And for me, if you're gonna pay a quarterback that much, pay a guy like Matthew Stafford. Pay a guy like Cam Newton. Fuck it. Go in. Make the trade for Cam. To me, Prescott does what Cam does, but not better. Like, he does what Cam does at like 75%. Like Cam, I mean, with the right coaching, which we saw last year, Cam could play without making mistakes. Cam makes the physical, athletic plays. Dak does just up to the line. That's it. Yeah. And I cannot in good conscience pay this fucker $30 million. Now, teams, this will come as no fucking surprise to anybody. If you talk to me for 5 minutes about football, you will know this answer. I am selling the fucking New Orleans Saints. I am absolutely fucking selling the Saints, and it's not my fanhood.
Wow.
It is not my Atlanta Falcons lamp sitting next to me or my Atlanta Falcons painting in the corner over here. It is none of that shit. The Saints window is closed. It was last year. If they had a chance to win it all, it was last year. They knew that. That's why they fucking cried about the pass interference call. It's over. Okay. Drew Brees is another year older. Me and you talked about it. We saw that wall right after that Cowboys game. And he never got over it. And they I don't know if they got extra physical with him or if it's the age finally took a toll. I'm not like, I'm not even saying that the Saints are going to be, they'll be 10-6 and make the playoffs. I'm calling full fucking tank. 6-10, 7-9, 5-11, like down fucking hill. And it's going to be, I think it is going to fall squarely on Drew Brees' shoulders. And the fans are going to do one of two things. They're either going to depends on the fan. I wouldn't put either past New Orleans fans just because I've known my share of them. They're either going to say, fuck it, let's ride with Drew Brees, let's ride this bitch to the ground, or they're going to show no loyalty at all and say, fuck it, let's go with Teddy Bridgewater or Taysom Hill. And if they do that, I'm going to fucking hate the Saints anymore because neither one of those guys put the team in any better position than Drew Brees, even at half speed. So yeah, I think that I'm out on as hard as you're out on the Texans. That's how hard I'm out on the Saints. I think they are going 6-10, double-digit losses. I believe Brees is going to have probably one of his worst seasons as a pro. Bookmark this shit. Come back to it. if I'm right in December, this shit's going to be my ringtone.
Just to, kind of give you a little bit of feedback, I can't behoove you too much because my whole thing is Ingram went to Baltimore, so Kamara's workload is going to be insane. And they signed
the guy that you're familiar with. They signed Latavius Murray.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, even with Murray able to do supplemental work and basically be the power back just because he's a big body, if Drew Brees' deep ball is truly done or on the serious decline, like you and I speculate that it is, that backfield's workload is going to like damn near double. And two, the Saints defense, I don't like the safeties and I don't like the linebackers. So essentially the entire middle of the field against that unit, you can exploit, in my opinion. If that defense is on the field a whole hell of a lot more because the offense can't put up shit, suddenly what you're presenting becomes a lot more feasible to me, even though I'm not quite at that point. But I mean, things could easily go south, no pun intended, very quickly down there.
And now my last sell is again not pandering to our boy Aaron at all.
Oh shit!
I'm selling Mike Zimmer for all the reasons you listed in the about you being out on Minnesota. I'm out on Mike Zimmer for the same reason. Mike Zimmer is a defensive coach. He has this team is, I mean, it's consistently gotten. I mean, it's been in yards and points. Last year they were yards. They were 4 points. They were 9 takeaways. They were 16. But that was because of their secondary. Their defense against the run, 22nd, 15 touchdowns, ranked in touchdowns. So middle of the pack, nothing special.
Mm-hmm.
Run the ball down their fucking throat, which is it's going to achieve 2 things. A, Kirk Cousins is not going to know what to fucking do because he's got limited time, and your defense is resting. So your defense is imagine the Bears just running the fucking ball with Tariq Cohen down this team's throat. Tariq Cohen and who's the other kid? They just drafted a kid. Fuck it, do reverses with Taylor Gabriel. Just Taylor Gabriel and Tariq Cohen just turn this shit into a track meet. And meanwhile, you got Roquan Smith and Khalil Mack just fucking armoring up on the sidelines, just going to get Kirk Cousins. I would pay to watch that game twice a year.
I'll put it to you like this, man. Despite my personal decision, they're still in the region, so to some extent, I'm still kind of going to pay attention to them. I think one of the Raiders' 4 or 5 wins next year is going to be against Minnesota.
It would not surprise me. Minnesota is the thing. Minnesota, they're gonna win a game or 2 that they shouldn't, and they're gonna lose 2 or 3 that they shouldn't. I don't think Minnesota is they're not gonna be terrible. They're gonna be 8-7-1, 7-8-1, right there.
I mean, and to your point, Zimmer does carry, so he has to carry accountability for that. But that's the position that a Kirk Cousins gets you in. It's not god awful by any means. He's a functional guy, but he's not gonna get you to the promised land by any means. Like he's not gonna put the sugar over bananas or whatever the hell else, sliced strawberries onto the cornflakes. He's just gonna be cornflakes. You add the milk, and shit is right in the middle of the pack.
Minnesota is gonna be the surprise team after this upcoming season. They're going to be the surprise team that drafts a quarterback.
Yeah, because he's not young either. He's like 31 or some shit like that.
Yeah, Cousins is now shit. No, he's older than that.
Is he?
Yeah, I want to say because it surprised me because I was like, oh no, yeah, he's 30. My bad, he's 30.
So he's going on 31.
Yeah. So I mean, he actually surprised me because like the year he was drafted, he's like 4 years older than every other guy that got drafted. Matthew Stafford is like the same age as him and got drafted 5 years before.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's crazy to me. So, but yeah, man, I am so out on Minnesota just because. I mean, this, bro, his Kirk Cousins record as a starter 34, 37, and 2. When he took over as a starter, this is his record. Full-time starter, 16 games in the season. 9-7, 8-7-1, 7-9, 8-7-1. But I'm the bad guy when I point that shit out to these Vikings fans that are just like oblivious to this just fucking like, dude, he's not even like Wonder Bread. He is like that bottom shelf grocery store brand, just like how broke are you? Like, oh, I'm paying for this with the change out of the ashtray of the car. Like, that's how fucking, like, bro, it's terrible.
I've adopted a mentality in recent years as I, as a fan, have looked at things from a more, dare I say, analytical standpoint. After 2 seasons, a quarterback shows you who they are, and you need to believe them. 2 of those 4 that you listed were the exact same, 8-7-1. Like, I don't know. I mean, I know it was an unfortunate situation in terms of Bridgewater getting hurt the way that he did, and then what's his face who ended up going to Denver. He got to the NFC Championship, kind of lightning in a bottle, and just completely shit the bed. So yeah, I mean, I don't blame them for wanting to go out and invest in the quarterback, but I don't know.
I think it was
how you pay him that money.
I think it was more them like, oh, like it almost feels like whoever the GM was in these sports groups and they were listening to the fans are just like, man, all we need is a quarterback. And he's like, fuck it, all we need is a quarterback. Let's go find the best quarterback available and give him the most money we can. Not thinking, hey, dude, this is going to cripple us for 3 years. We're not going to be able to pay anybody on defense. Defense is also getting older. We need to do this. Or can we pay fucking Case Keenum half as much and just kind of do it like 1 year at a time? And then,
right.
So, I mean, I would love to find out like every quarterback that was selected after, like, I don't know, like when Case Keenum came on the roster and was as the starter, every quarterback that was selected since, and just after the Minnesota pick, and just to see like who the fuck did y'all pass? We know they passed on Dak Prescott at least.
Yeah, maybe whenever the next episode, maybe that'll be our homework. We're gonna look up players who came into prominence for whatever means after Cousins and see how they square up. But in any case, folks, that's going to be about it for what we have for you tonight. I mean, obviously, we got into a little bit of football. We reacted to games 1 and 2. We're going to have continued coverage in whether it's in solo form, podcast form, whatever the case. We're going to let you know how we feel about how these finals go and conclude. And then once the NBA offseason starts, you're going to be seeing our asses plenty because some shit is going to go down.
Shit is freaking wow.
In closing, before I pass it off to you for your maybe a shitty shout out, I'm going to go ahead and give a positive shout out to a young man you mentioned earlier, Juju Smith-Schuster. Somewhere in the state of Pennsylvania, a kid who was going to go to his high school prom broke up with his girl. And once Juju Smith-Schuster found out about this, he's like, well, you know what, dude? I'll accompany you and your friends to this prom, and I'll make it memorable for you, and we'll just go and have fun so that you can forget about whatever took place between you and her. And went out and got a matching tuxedo with this kid at the drop of a hat and just went and started and just had a good-ass time. And, obviously, yeah, relationship, whatever, even at a super young stage like that, yeah, it sucks. But at the same time, you're an 18-year-old kid graduating high school, on your way to college. Your life's just getting started. For Juju to drive a point home that you can't get too hung up on that by going with this kid and his friends and just having a ball, that's a cool-ass story, man.
Yeah.
And,
Definitely.
the media loves to jump on the Tyreek Hills of the world. Make sure you give equal attention and equal footing to stuff like this, because that is a genuinely dope thing.
Yeah.
And
Hell yeah.
yeah, I already like Juju. Now he's even higher in my book.
Yeah, man, he's getting real close to being a made man for me. Like, there's very few things that he could do wrong. Hopefully there wasn't too much AB wearing off on him with the diva shit.
Yeah,
I really do.
I doubt it.
I really do like Juju, man. I did see that story earlier. I didn't realize it was on like short notice, man, but I thought it was pretty awesome. I saw the pictures of him and the kid matching tuxes. So, and he went out there and probably had a good ass time. And those kids are going to, especially if it's in Pennsylvania, those kids are going to talk about that shit forever. And this kid Juju just made a whole school of fans.
Oh yeah.
So
first day, black and yellow jerseys everywhere.
I love it. I can do my little shitty shout out. It's also something that we touched on earlier, a name that we brought up. Odell. For the exact reason you brought up earlier, man. Go the fuck to training camp, dude. Like, you spent this whole offseason, trying to frame New York as this shitty place, and they're the bad guys, and man, I just want to win. And you got to put in the work. Even if you're not putting in the work, appear to put in the work. Like, the biggest story I've seen from Odell this offseason is he showed up in the fucking orange Bentley with the retracting Odell figurine on the front. Bro, Odell, what are you doing? Like,
look, you guys know I'm into my shoes. I'm into my fashion. I got some gear on right now. Look, Odell, I get it. I know that you and Von Miller and Cam Newton want to go on Instagram and get the fit off. I understand. But we're not in February. We're in June. Go run some slants.
Bro,
go run some digs, because you're going to be doing more than slants in Cleveland.
Your rookie head coach don't need to be answering questions about your ass in June. Like,
get it together, bro.
Work out your timing with Baker. This is y'all's division to take. I just, man, like, I'm still maintaining. I'm with Cleveland. I like them, but it is hard. You can't defend this shit. You can't, like.
Yeah, it's.
Odell, what are you doing, man? Just catch some passes. Show up in Cleveland. Just be there. Listen to some Bone Thugs and Harmony. Fucking call LeBron. Find out what restaurants he likes.
Call LeBron, so that LeBron, away from the cameras in the shop, will tell you, like, little bro, take your ass to Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, bro, like, LeBron's owns some property. You got a house to stay in, and I guarantee it's a dope house. Like, LeBron's he was the man. So, I mean, dude, just what the fuck are you doing? Like, get there, put in the work. And I'll go back and say it again. If he shows his ass in the preseason and balls out in the regular season, we're not going to talk about this. We'll never hear from him again. It'll be a long, distant memory. If he goes and fucks up in the preseason and regular season, this is going to be that boat trip all over again. This is all anybody's going to talk about. I'm still talking about the boat trip 2-3 years later. It's like, bro, if you would have taken it, it's not even that you did it. It's not even, it's the appearance.
Yes.
Like, he could have taken that boat trip and no pictures would have been taken. We wouldn't be talking about it. But because Odell has to be seen, be seen at practice. That's all you need to be doing. Like,
in closing, I'll say this. Trey Songz will never have to beat double coverage. You will. Get that shit together. That's all. So, folks, as always, we greatly appreciate your support. Things are growing here. Things are moving at a rapid pace. Whether you see Jeremy, whether you see me, whether you see Roy, John, Aaron, the whole cast and crew. Like, comment, subscribe, continue supporting us. We will continue to get content out to you, and we'll catch you all later. Peace out.
Fuck Tom Brady.